Hey, you guys, just wanted to let you know we have an amazing show called The Game Changer Show each and every single Wednesday at 6 p.m. GMT, where we interview entrepreneurs, athletes alike. It gives people an opportunity to listen to people's story, how they've kind of really turned their business around. It's fun, it's thought-provoking, it's an opportunity to ask questions, and it's interactive. So if you want to come and hang out with some cool people, 6 p.m., please go to youtube.com/sleeve/Adam Strong, subscribe and click on the bell, and we'll see you there on Wednesday at 6 p.m. GMT. Cheers, take care.
This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by Productivity Authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Game Changers Experience with myself, Adam Strong. And today we have a special show with Mr. Chris Cooper, everyone. Now, who is Chris? Chris has 30 years experience in the corporate field, more specifically. He's worked with brands such as Mars. He's worked with United Biscuits. He's worked with Punch. And he's actually transitioned into the entrepreneurial world and supporting entrepreneurs in running their business. He's also the founder of a business show on Voice America, and he founded the business show in 2011, I believe. He's a coach, advisor, consultant. He's also the co-author of a book called if I'm not mistaken, The Power to Get Things Done. If I'm not mistaken. I hope I said that correctly.
Yeah, that's the one.
There it is, see? It's all good. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to meet you, Adam. Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Oh, good. So, listen, really fascinating to hear our conversations today. But listen, I know that you started off in corporate life. You know, you kind of started off in corporate life, went up the corporate ladder, senior management, but now transitioned into helping entrepreneurs in growing their brands, which is really kind of fascinating. But I suppose my first question is what did you learn from corporate life, and how have you applied that in becoming an entrepreneur yourself?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think one of the key kind of reflections that I had was that I realized when I was in corporate life that I went through the kind of corporate ladder, and I worked in sales and marketing, training, HR, logistics, all sorts of different functions, and ran international teams and divisions. And I loved all of that stuff. But what I thought was really fascinating was when I had a bit of a bridge in that I set up a company with some partners, and we grew that very quickly. And it was a procurement consultancy. And after a few years, I sold my share to focus on my passion, which was people. And I think probably the number one insight, if I look back on it, was about a couple of years into my business. I did quite well the first 2 years. And then the third year, I had a couple of great clients projects I was about to run. I had all my eggs in these two baskets. And suddenly, for reasons beyond my control, both the work was cancelled.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up with nothing. And what I realized was I'd left the corporate world because I got a bit fed up with line managers, appraisals, board meetings, finger pointing if you hadn't done what you'd done, the politics, all of those sorts of things. Yeah. And then what it suddenly dawned on me in those moments when actually I had nothing was that all those things had been my friends. And in reality, they had held up my performance. And they'd locked me into a system that meant I had to perform. And in fact, they weren't my enemies. They were actually my friends. Mm. So I think probably a big insight was actually I needed to put some of that back into my business in order to be successful once again.
Interesting. Really interesting. Because I know that you said that you did marketing, you did sales. Was there any particular aspects of corporate life that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed my time. I enjoyed my time in sales at Mars. I just suddenly had the freedom to get out of the office and visit lots of people, and I particularly realized that I was very strong. I mean, in terms of connecting and engaging with people. And I loved that as part of the role. And it was a real surprise to me because I'd been made redundant when a year before I joined Mars. And so I've been on the dole, and I had to find a job. But a year later, I'd won a sales award, and I was in Florida in 1994 at the World Cup, having won this big sales award, and I couldn't believe it. My life sort of changed. So I love that, being with people, and it had been my ability to spend time with people and engage with them, not necessarily with anything in it for me, which actually led to me working. I was a big account that I was working on, and a big leisure group. I had vending machines and things through lots of leisure centres in the Midlands. Right. And they were locked into a 5-year deal with someone else. And I remember that I spent time with them still. I still went to see this guy. I developed a relationship with him. And then one day I was about 2 miles away from Newcastle. I was going up to an event, a Mars event with my boss. And I got a call to say, if you can get down to the south of Birmingham in the next 2.5 hours, you're going to land the biggest deal that you've ever landed in your life. And what happened was I got back about just after 2.5 hours. The Cadbury's rep was sitting in there with this particular contact, and my heart sank. And then I'll never forget him walking out after about 15 minutes. And he said to this Cadbury's rep, he said, let me introduce you to the guy from Mars. You could learn a few things from him. And I went in, and basically what he said was, there was nothing that you could gain really from helping me, but you kept on coming to see me. You kept on helping me. So I was good at that. And then I ended up running large divisions and things, ultimately big procurement teams. And I loved having teams of people in France, Belgium, Holland, Spain, Finland, Poland. I loved going out to those countries and the cultures. And so what came on in later life after I left the procurement consultancy was a realization that I loved being around people, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life helping people to elevate their performance and to realize more of their potential, really, and live happy and more fulfilled life, I think.
Very cool. Very good. Now, I know that I know that you've been running your business for quite some time now, and then you got into, you created a radio show called Voice America. I mean, why radio? I mean, how did you come up with that idea, just out of curiosity?
Well, so the radio show is Voice America is the network. My show is called the Business Elevation Show, and where it came from was that I remember at the age of 28, I'd been on a program called Landmark, which kind of changed my life actually. I wrote down, I took a piece of paper. I was living in London. I was broke. I'd split up. My girlfriend I split up with. She was found someone else more interesting, and I was a little bit of a low point. And I'll never forget that. I took a piece of paper and I just sat down and I decided to write what life would be like when I was 40. And I thought, I can write down anything because I'm never going to be that old. And so I wrote down, I have financial freedom, my own business, a lovely wife, brackets, who doesn't cheat on me, a young child, children. I wanted to be able to play the rock guitar and be able to blow my friends away. And I wanted a dog called Barney and I wanted this beautiful white home in the country. And incredibly, when I got to 40, I stood outside this white home in the country with my wife, having just sold my share of my business, with my first child. And I played the electric guitar, and the only thing that didn't arrive was the dog. It wasn't there because he arrived 3 weeks later. So I started to start from again with another white piece of paper, thinking, what could I do? And one of the things I wrote down was I wanted to add value to over 1 million people beyond my client base. I felt fortunate. I wanted to be able to give back. And I'd been running some groups for entrepreneurs, one called the Achiever Program. And I'd been bringing these people together, and I've been interviewing people, little like we're doing now, and putting some of those on my website. And Voice America contacted me and said, how about doing a radio show with us? Which sounded really flattering. And then I found out I had to pay them. So it wasn't quite so flattering, but I did it, and I loved it. And I paid them a small fee for all their support and technical things, etc. Yeah. But I've been doing it since September 2011 now, and I'm addicted to it. I can't stop.
Very good. Love it. And now I know that you've interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of people in that for the last sort of over the last 10 years. Was there any particular interview that really stood out for you, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, crikey. I think there's been a few. I mean, there was one that amused me right at the very beginning. And I suppose it's about fear, really, and being confident and overcoming fear. And I remember I was interviewing Jack Canfield.
Yeah.
Do you know Jack?
Jack.
Chicken Soup for the Soul, and
good friends, Jack.
He's a good man, isn't he?
He is a good man. And he actually featured on the summit last year. So yeah, top guy, and met a couple of his students as well. Really nice guy.
Yeah, and I remember with Jack being, I got to a point, after you've done a few of these, you sort of lose your nerves, don't you? But actually, I was a bit nervous because I'd read a lot of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, and right before we started the interview, I said to him, Jack, I've got to be honest with you, I'm just a little bit nervous. And I said, I'm not normally nervous, but I think it's you, all these amazing books you've written. And he said, gee, Chris, he said, don't worry about it at all. He said, I feel like that myself sometimes. And I said, when? And he said, when I'm talking to Obama. and that sort of stuck out. And I think I enjoyed the interview with him. And I think, you've got to realize everybody sometimes is nervous. You just got to get on and do it. And he wrote very kindly wrote the cover comment to my book. And another one I've loved is Dr. Ivan Meisner of BNI. He's great and been very generous with me, and wrote the introduction to my book, which was lovely. And then there's just all sorts of sporting people, and I loved interviewing the saxophone player from Dire Straits and understanding what it was like to stand on Live Aid on a stage with 3 billion people watching. That was particularly fun. Yeah.
Very cool. Now, I know that working from home is now the new normal for most people, but I kind of wanted to tap into your, I suppose, leadership, and because you have a great skill set in the world of leadership and engagement in particular. I wanted to tap into, do you think that many companies have really struggled with the whole kind of engagement, especially working in the digital space and working from home and leadership? Any tips for people that are really struggling in terms of business leaders as well?
Yeah. I think I've got a number of clients who I've worked with, obviously during the COVID period, and had to help them really to realize that actually you can do things well online, and you can engage with people online, and if you've got a barrier in your mindset that actually you can't do it, then you'll fail. So I think what you have to do is you have to embrace the technology and realize, and also you've got to embrace the phone and pick it up and talk to people. But the likes of Zoom, etc., have been a godsend really, and without them we wouldn't been able to continue operating effectively. But we've done that, and a lot of people have loved working from home, and some people haven't, and it partly depends upon the environment you've got at home, I think, and your nature of your person. If you're somebody who's very extroverted and loves being around people, you probably miss people. If you're more quiet and introverted and less engaged, or enjoy being around lots of people, actually being at home is really quite nice. So I think what you have to do is be mindful of those people who really need that time, spend time with people, and don't just ask them about the numbers. Don't just call them up and say, how are you performing? Just find out what's really going on for them. What's underneath the iceberg, not just the tip of the iceberg. Find out what first, how are you? How's life? How's your families? Many of us have lost people. Many of us have been impacted by COVID in many ways, or as I've found with some people, a few decisions they've made in the past combined with COVID being as added to this kind of mental health challenges, really.
Right.
So I think the first thing is you connect with people, you make sure you're doing it regularly, you find out what's really going on with them, you show that you care. And then the other thing is you utilize technology well. You use breakout rooms, you use whiteboards, you embrace the best of that technology, and you get good at it, whether you like doing it or not.
I agree. I think it's some good points, but all of this basic, because it is really simple business advice for leaders, right? I'd just be amazed how many people actually don't do it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really, really crazy. I was going to say, I know that you also do a lot of stuff with entrepreneurs in finding people's clarity. Now, if someone is really struggling with that clarity, because I know you just in conversations that I've had with a lot of business leaders and entrepreneurs, is that clarity is a real sticking point for a lot of people right now. You know, even though this kind of, you know, pandemic thing is, you know, still around for even after 1 year, people are still finding that they're still struggling to find that clarity. What do you do when a client who really struggles for clarity, what do you do in terms of advise them? Where do they need to start?
Yeah, I think the first thing is I run a session with them around discovering your purpose. So if people can't articulate their purpose in 2 sentences, their purpose in life and why they're here, then they need a bit of help. And I do run a session, and I will guarantee that we'll have clarity within 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I give them that clarity. So a couple of weeks ago, I did one of these sessions with a fabulous guy, didn't have the clarity. We clarified his statement. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that one of his elements of it was that he helps other people to discover and deliver their goals. Yeah. So after that session, he went to his team and he sat down with everybody to find out what their goals were. And as a consequence of that, there's a project now called Project Panda, because one of them wants to go to China. And he reckoned it was the first week that they'd ever had in there that he was aware of, and they've got a long, long history where everybody brought in new business because it's so energizing. He'd been himself. So what we do is we understand that piece, but also then have a look about how that relates to the business purpose. And so I do work where we clarify the business purpose, the values, the mission. And once all of those pieces are clear, that's really, really helpful. A lovely little, if you're wondering, it's a lovely little exercise that I've personally have found very helpful, was recommended to me by one of my show guests called Michael Romling. And Michael suggested to me that I wrote a letter dated a year in the future, and I described why the last year had been such a great year, and send that to 1 or 2 people confidentially. So I have my letter here, which is there. I laminated it.
Love it.
And I wrote down what the year would look like, and then it enabled me then to go and have to tease out of that letter what are my intentions for the year. You could do that over 5 years. You could do it over 10. But to actually write it as though it's happened, it starts to program your mind. So I think that's a good exercise, but clarity is really important.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Interesting we were talking about intentions, but I also know you're a keen adventure racer. And I remember, I don't know if I told you this, but this was must have been about 3 years ago, actually. I remember I remember when I really wanted to take things to the next level in terms of pushing my body and stuff like that, right? And everyone was kind of asking me, hey, so why don't you do a triathlon? And I was just like, I just wasn't enthusiastic by the whole kind of triathlon thing, because I'm not the strongest swimmer in the world. And, it wasn't very appealing. And then I came across adventure racing, which is obviously, as we know, it's a bit different because it's kayaking instead of swimming. It's trail running instead of normal road running. And then it's, mountain biking instead of, road biking, which I find, it's just crazy. But how is your experience being an adventure racer, and how have you applied the principles of the intention to your business?
Right. Well, let's just get this clear. Look, you're a super elite athlete. I'm not a super elite athlete. In fact, my adventure racing was my wife described it as a midlife crisis. So I don't want to pretend I'm something that I'm not. I mean, I did a couple of marathons in my younger days. I met a guy called David Fox Pitt who puts on the most amazing extreme events in Scotland. And we became friends, and my wife and I and kids went to stay with him on the side of Loch Tay. And one day, David, with his best mate, Bear Grylls, and another best mate called Neil Lawton, who's an adventurer and introduced him to me in the first place, they looked out of his house and thought, what an amazing place for an adventure race. So they have beautiful Loch Tay, which is 18 miles long, something like that. 7 gorgeous Munros at the other side of the loch. So he created this event, which was a mile swim across Loch Tay at dawn. It was a 15-mile run, which I'm sure you do before breakfast, but you did have to go over 7 Munros during the 15 miles, then a 7-mile kayak, and a 36-mile hilly bike ride in a day. So Scotland's described as Scotland's toughest one-day endurance event. And so we went. My dad was ill with pancreatic cancer, and we knew we were going to lose him. And I had interviewed amazing people who've achieved amazing things like you, Adam. And I thought it's time I did something. So I got this little, get this little seat in your head, this little thing that won't go away. And I started to get the feeling that I needed to do it. So around intentions, I could only swim about half a length of front crawl.
Oh, wow.
So I got to get a mile over the loch. I could run okay, even but not over mountains, and I could cycle well. I'd not kayaked for years. So that's where I was with it. So I had 9 months to do it. And I suppose what I did around intentions, because I co-wrote a book about this, is I decided that I had to take them first you've got to take them very seriously. Get very clear about what your intentions are and take them seriously. So what I did was I advertised for somebody to be my buddy, because you have to do it with someone for safety. And my friend Mike, who's swum across the channel and got a fastest time with 3 others 1 year, he entered it with me. I then decided I wanted to do it for charity, was a main driver. So I let people know we were doing it for Mary's Meals and Mercy Corps. I introduced a friend of mine who's got a triathlon and Ironman world champion. She became the ambassador. So what I did was I created a situation where, whether I felt like it or not, I had to do it.
Yeah.
There's Andy McMenemy, who was an ultramarathon world record holder, told me he did 66 marathons, 66 consecutive days in 66 different UK cities.
Wow.
You have to hang yourself by your tongue. If you tell lots of people, you feel the pressure that you've got to act. And then I was faced then with these 4 disciplines. One of the things that helped me to put power behind my intention was I spoke to a guy and had a lunch with a guy who came 3rd 1 year in the event, a guy called James. James told me, when I asked for a tip, he said this. He said, "Chris, you've got 9 months to go. If you consistently train several times a week and build it up between now and July, it's going to be the best day of your life. If you don't, it'll be the worst."
Love it. That probably sounded.
So that got me up. Sorry?
It's sound advice. I mean, I remember actually preparing for my first adventure race. And I tell you what, you really do have to train for it. You really can't just wing it. It's not one of those things. I actually found it particularly difficult. Mind you, the one that I did, I think I told you about this because it was in the New Forest. It was quite windy, not particularly, it was kind of on and off in terms of the rain, but because of the wind, it made the whole experience 10 times harder.
Yeah.
So but you know what, that's adventure racing for you.
my scary bit, the thing I was most scared of was obviously the swim. I had to learn how to swim.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had 9 months to do that. By Christmas, I could do 4 lengths of crawl. So I had to do a mile. And the other thing that we did, we went and visited. So stayed over and we kayaked and we tried to swim in the loch in May. It was that cold that I just couldn't swim because I couldn't get my breath. So I then had the coldness to deal with as well. So between May and July, I had a cold shower as long as I could stand every morning. And when it came to the event itself, and I managed to swim the loch without any problem because it'd been such a focus for me. When I got out, I couldn't feel my feet, but I didn't feel the cold. So so I had to create against each of the different elements a strategy to mean that I would be able to achieve each of those different disciplines by the 4th. I think it was the 4th or 5th of July.
Yeah.
So that in business, for me, you need people to hold you to account. Sometimes you've got to delegate responsibilities to other people where you can, but there's all sorts of strategies that enable you to turn up the heat, because motivation, quite honestly, isn't enough. You've got to create you've got to create a discipline that means you will achieve what you need to achieve. So you've got to create, you need to create strategies for you that mean you will act when those moments when you don't want to get out of bed, or those moments when you hurt, like I know you do after some physio today. You've got to, and you've turned up today. You've got to create those strategies that mean that you will walk and not wobble.
That's true. That's very true. It's a good analogy. I like it. It's really, really good. I want to go back to tap into your expertise in the whole kind of leadership field. Tell us more about it. Is it the STAR technique or the STAR methodology? Talk us about a little bit about that, how that can be applied.
Well, yeah. So what I wanted to do was I feel very passionately that we need to improve the average quality of not only our leadership, but our consciousness actually across the globe. And what I do believe is that, we need to develop ourselves such that we get a perspective of the bigger picture, of what the impact we really have is, because we're at a point in the world at the moment where we're at a crossroads really, and it could go either way. So I feel very passionately that leadership has to elevate and has to step up, and actually also become more socially responsible as well, and environmentally responsible. So to do that, we have to raise the quality of our thinking. So myself and a gentleman called Gene Early. Gene launched NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and he launched it across Europe and set up all the training centers. And he's a fascinating man. He set up a very successful genomic research firm. He ran a university in Hawaii. He works as a partner with an organization globally called Leaders Quest. So we became friends. We met in Kenya actually. I went on a Leaders Quest, and we sat talking around a fire in a forest with a Maasai tribe, looking up at the stars, and we started talking about what was really and truly important. And we started to talk about what is there for leadership, beyond where we are right now. And it's spurned a bit of work. We call it the STAR model. We haven't published it. We're not necessarily trying to market it and make it a big thing. But what we do is we identified what are the key components to stepping up our leadership. And the point, there's 5 points to a STAR. And the first point is about you. So knowing you, about being able to hold up a mirror, being able to continuously improve, build your, understand your purpose, your flow, elevate your thinking. The second point is about humility. It's about developing your humility such that you can connect with people, that actually it's not about your own ego. It's not about, I'll do this because I make the most money from it. It's about doing which is the next step, is about doing what's right and seeking the truth in things. So at the moment, there's so much information, and people are vying for our subconscious minds. You look at US politics, you look at Brexit, and how Brexit came about, focusing on 3 million people who didn't vote, who are feeling disenfranchised. You can easily have your mind hijacked today. So you've got to identify and try and work out what's true. I had my vaccine on Saturday. There's a lot of people not going to have the vaccine, but actually, and there's some countries have put the AstraZeneca vaccine on hold. There's been 40 cases of blood clots, which apparently in the millions of people who've had a vaccine to date is fairly comparable with what you'd expect anyway. So, what is the truth? And I think what we've got to do is try and work out the truth. And then the fourth bit is elevating our wisdom and enabling us to draw on the wisdom from the past, enabling us to problem solve with great tools and methodologies, and us be able to develop our visions moving forward. And the fifth one is around the execution of that, the getting into action, which kind of links into my book in some ways too. So.
Very good. Love it. Very good. So I was going to say, you've been in the world of consulting and advising entrepreneurs for many years. What would you say this year, as in 2021, what would you say this year is the main focus for you? What's important to you in terms of moving forward?
Personally?
Yeah.
Personally, yeah. A component that's really important to me is I've been very fortunate, like yourself, to build some amazing connections around the world, and I brought some of those people together into what I call my Elevation Collective. And the Elevation Collective, the first one is running, and the aim of it was really to help elevate the consciousness of our leadership, but also help us together collectively, having amazing minds together, to go out and achieve and make a bigger contribution, a bigger positive ripple to solving the world's problems. So I created one of these as a sort of test bed, and I've been bowled over. I've been so humbled and bowled over by the feedback of how much these people are loving this process and how much they're getting out of it. So one of the things, I've got two areas I work. I help particularly financial insurance companies and brokers and financial services companies to develop their companies and build higher engagement, etc. The other area for me this year is about getting these elevation collectives moving and creating a community where people are connecting with incredible people, but are working on the world's problems. And ultimately, I'd love to see that then filter to making a maybe even like park runs, where actually it becomes a methodology that we develop, that more and more people can benefit from, to get together and solve community problems. So that's where I feel very passionate at the moment.
Interesting. It's kind of work moving into the world of philanthropy. That's kind of what it sounds like you're moving into, right?
I think there's definitely a philanthropic element to it, absolutely. And I think that's for me, that's important, to be helping people with whatever we do and making a positive contribution to the world. It's not just about we need to be spreading wealth. We need to be spreading knowledge and wisdom. So yeah, there's a philanthropic element to it, and there's also I've got to obviously look after my family too while I'm doing it.
Of course, absolutely, 100%. No, I absolutely agree. It's interesting because I know many people which have kind of transitioned into that, and they come from a place of abundance and like you said, humility, which we need more of in this world, especially in this day and age. And and if you look at the big leaders in the world, there is there's many different examples, from Nelson Mandela through to Nelson Mandela and kind of Mother Teresa, that's her name. Those are perfect examples of people that have kind of moved into that transition, and they don't do it. They don't think about money. They don't think about judgments and people's opinions. They don't care about any of that, but they've moved into that kind of transitional phase, which is really interesting. I find that quite fascinating. I'm certainly not at that stage yet, but I reckon as we become more wiser and create more wisdom, and we want to have this, similar to you, I think I love to share knowledge and things like that, and I think it's important. In fact, I just did a session with a lady, and she was and she wanted some advice, and she was like, oh, damn it, I wish I came across this before, because she felt that she got it really honed down, and I was like, what the whole point of me is to throw a spanner in the works and to really kind of look at it from the outside perspective rather than from your perspective. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. That's pretty cool. Anyway, I was going to say, listen, it's great to have you on the show. Really enjoyed some of our conversations. Guys, I wanted to say to you, if you want to get in contact with Chris, please do so using the social media links below, and also to listen into the Voice America show, and we can put that in the links links below. You can listen to the Business Elevation show that Chris is part of, and listen to some of his wonderful interviews and whatever it is. So Chris, just want to say thanks very much for being on the show today, buddy.
You're welcome. I'm really looking forward to joining me on my show as well, Adam.
Woo! Absolutely.
You're brilliant.
Very good. So make sure so now you've got no excuses, guys, for listening into the Business Elevation show on Voice America, because I'm going to be on it soon. So it's all good. What else? You don't need another reason. So listen, guys, just want to say thanks very much. If you enjoyed today's show, and along with all the other shows as well, please do me a favor, give me a 1 or a 5-star review, whichever you prefer. If you're listening to it on Apple, you can do so. If you're listening to this on Android, please go to Podchaser, 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 and you can leave a review on there as well. Thanks very much for everyone, and we'll see you soon on the next Game Changers Experience. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, you guys, I just want to say thank you so much for listening in to this episode of the Game Changers Experience. I hope that you got some amazing value, some great insights, and golden nuggets that you can implement into your business straight away. I would really, really appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star review on the button below. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.